Jason, you able to hear and see us?
Yep, I got you.
Is the camera skewed one way or another? Looks like the one is maybe skewed a little bit more to the right.
This will be part of my council report. 3 minutes, notes from the top. Pretty positive.
All right, checking the other camera a second. All right, that camera view good?
Yeah, it's good.
Okay, thank you. Going on mute.
Microphone, okay. All righty, everybody, it is 6 o'clock. Welcome to the council meeting. And can we please start off with the Pledge of Allegiance led by our Chief of Police?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call, Kathy, please.
Mayor Chapman?
Here.
Councilmember Here. Councilmember Kirby? Councilmember Nelson?
Here.
Councilmember Stanley?
Here.
All righty, we have a quorum and Councilmember Mayor Pro Tem Furby is excused. Going now to the approval of the agenda, I would like to add a 10H, which would be the manager's review. So do I have support on that?
Yes.
Okay,
Second.
we have a support. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of adopting the agenda with the addition of 10H?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to public comment. You have a limit of 5 minutes per person, and it can be used for general public comment or agenda items. Once again, you have 5 minutes, and go ahead.
Good evening, Amy Lurley, 725 North.
One second, he's got to
Sorry, Amy, you
switch.
just got to turn the camera on.
Okay,
And let's get you so we're not.
now we're okay. Good evening.
Perfect.
Now we're back.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm Amy Lurley, 725 North First Street, and I would respectfully request to reserve time under item 9A after you've had a chance to present your information.
9A.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay. Once again, please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, I'm Kevin Corkin, 604 North Pine Street, and I just would like to reserve my time for 10A2.
10A. Discussion, okay. Perfect. Is there anybody else in the room that, okay, Claudia? Perfect, thank you. Okay, go ahead.
I was just going to ask when the council was going to do City Manager Craig Geeney's evaluation, or are you just going to give him his $3,000 bonus for doing such a lousy job for the city of Ishpeming? A bad audit, awful relations with the public, does not show any respect for the mayor. The city manager started in February of 2020. He is responsible for the employees and their mistakes. Even if the mistakes were going on before he arrived, they continued after he came, and he should have caught those mistakes. And when is the city going to show transparency and let the public know what the approximate financial mistakes the former utility billing clerk cost the city of Ishpeming? I know the city finance director isn't looking to go back further, but you have some idea on the damages that he did find. And this is the residents' money, and you have an obligation to be transparent and tell the public what the damages are.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to the next one. Okay, Mr. Tonkin.
Mike Tonkin, 612 North 3rd Street, in the beautiful city of Ishpeming. I had a few other things I was going to speak to. However, hearing the news when I just got here at the meeting, I got up and participated with everyone else saying the Pledge of Allegiance. You know what? At the very end, you say, "and justice for all." Tonight, I was informed of an injustice that came up today, and you should be ashamed of yourselves. And I'm talking about almost every one of you there. This gentleman here has been put through the ringer for what's been done with his deck. I've been in the building business for 40 years, and I've seen decks, I've seen additions, I've seen everything you can think of in the construction business. And nobody gets permits for 3/4 of the things that are in the list. You have to use common sense, and you have to use your brain. And when you start talking about these building codes, it comes down to the point, if you paint your house, you'll need a building permit. If you change the screen on your screen door, you'll need a building permit. If you read it letter by letter, the whole job, everybody would have to get a permit for everything. Now, this gentleman's been going through the ringer for nothing at all, except for there apparently is a retaliation going against him. And we all know who's putting the retaliation on. And right now, you're bringing him up again on 11-700. I have a letter from the gentleman that's bringing it up that I would like to read for him on the agenda when it comes up. So I'd like to appoint a little time for myself to do that, if you don't mind. Other than that, it's going to be a long road to hoe. So hopefully we can get people on the same page, and we all should be pushing forward on things, not looking back and not looking at who we can stick a knife in the back of. And people are telling me on the street they're afraid to come to city council meetings because if somebody upsets somebody, there's retaliation involved. They're literally afraid to come to these meetings, and that is not acceptable. And everybody knows me here, knows that I won't put up with that BS, and they know better. But there are people here, it takes a lot for somebody to come forward and speak at a meeting like this because they're on TV or whatever. But I will be back. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Tonkin, you will have 2 minutes, 35 seconds at the agenda on that.
Hopefully it won't take longer than that.
Is there anybody else in the room that would like to speak for public comment? Okay, go ahead. May?
Hi, everybody. May Chupros, 925 North Main Street in Ishpeming. I was here last time just giving updates on Partridge Creek Farm, and I feel pretty committed to just keeping the public informed of what's happening and the council. So I just wanted to give a couple more updates. Some of you may or may not know that our sister nonprofit Partridge Creek Compost has just started a pilot residential pickup. So we are picking up people's compost weekly. And people, this is in Ishpeming. It's only in Ishpeming right now. It's a really exciting movement. Many people want it in Marquette, but they're very committed to making it happen in Ishpeming. So it's food waste and a lot of other stuff. And that compost is getting picked up weekly and is going to a composting site that has been approved. And just wanted to let everybody know. I also wanted to let everybody know that Partridge Creek Farm also right now has garden bed sign up. So if you're interested in a community garden site at the site behind Bell Forest, we are doing signups if you're interested in growing food. We also have a weekly subscription box this summer if you're interested in a box EBT to sign up because they get it for $5 for a box of vegetables. And then I wanted to share quickly that the 7th graders did a project on how to solve hunger in Ishpeming, a totally student-led project, and they are going to be holding a dinner on April 19th for a community dinner to raise money for a soup kitchen that they want to have in the school for their peers who can't afford food sometimes, on the weekends especially. So if people want to mark their calendars, that would be really awesome. 2 more things. There's a CTE program that's going to be starting next fall. We did find a teacher for that. So there's going to be a career technical education program starting for interested students. It's a double block class. So it'll just add to our incredible CTE program that's growing at the schools. And then finally, I wanted to inform the community of a really big update personally and professionally, that I am actually moving on from Partridge Creek Farm. I'm still going to be a board member and a very involved community member, but I took a new position that's going to be able to uplift the community. And we have a new executive director coming in, and I can't wait for you all to meet them soon. But the work is going to just grow and flourish more under some new direction. So I just wanted to let everybody know.
Hey, May, would you I just have a question, and I think it would be a good time to educate
Sure.
the people in the room and those watching.
Yeah.
What types of things can be picked up for the composting?
Yeah, great question. So you have to sign up, and you will get, the compost team gives you a 5-gallon bucket with a lid and a liner in it. And they give you a list of things that can be composted. But really, it's pretty much any sort of food waste. And that includes meat and bones. All of that can be composted. It includes a lot of paper products, cardboard, just no tape. And I can't give you quite a comprehensive list off the top of my head, but you can go to the website, which is partridgecreekcompost.org, and you can look at the full list. And it's a really exciting partnership with the city that we're doing this composting program. And I do want you to know that our governor Whitmer is very invested in waste management, and so we are leading this effort. Partridge Creek Compost is leading the efforts in the UP around this. So everybody's looking to us, and it's really, really exciting.
I hope to sign up personally.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else in the room that would like to speak during public comment? Anybody on Zoom world? And last call for public comment. All right, moving on to the consent agenda, minutes of the previous meeting, January 10th, and the approval of disbursements.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion that we accept the consent agenda as approved, or as presented.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Consent agenda is adopted. Moving on to the monthly reports from the department, and we'll start with the financial statement report. Grant, take us away.
Hello. Okay, so we can all take a look at the unaudited balance sheet excerpt for the city of Ishpeming, month ended January 31st, 2024. We'll start taking a look at the general fund. The general fund received $921,000 in property taxes during January 2024 and $17,000 in tax administration fees. $165,000 of estimated state revenue.
Sorry.
That's
I got to
okay.
take my timer off.
$165,000 of estimated state revenue is still expected to be received for the months of November and December, and will be able to be applied to the 2023 fiscal year when it is received, as long as it's within 60 days after fiscal year end. Personnel and fringe costs make up the bulk of the general fund activity for the month. Other notable expenditures were vehicle rental allocations of $18,500. Ending fund balance year to date is up $600,000 from the prior year, mainly a result of the property tax revenues received. And that brings us to an ending fund balance of $1.14 million for the general fund. Moving on to major streets, $54,000 in payments from the state were received in January. $39,000 in vehicle rental charges paid to the motor pool fund were incurred, as well as $11,000 in overtime wages, illustrating some of the costs of that big storm we had in January. December state revenues for the fund have yet to be received, and again, like the state revenues for the general fund, will be able to be applied to the 2023 fiscal year should they come in within 60 days of fiscal year end. We had a slight dip in the fund balance month over month of $25,000, bringing an ending fund balance to $825,000 for the major streets fund. Looking at local streets, $22,000 in payments from the state were received in the local street fund, $5,200 in overtime wages, and $20,000 in vehicle rental charges. Again, illustrate the cost of the storm cleanup from January. December state revenues, again, like major streets, yet to be received, can still be applied to 2023. Moving on to the DDA. Really, the bulk of the activity we're seeing in the DDA fund is a result of the 2.5 startup grant assistance fund that was incurred to Sunta Integrated Health. And the remainder of the expenditures that we're seeing here are wage related. Dip in the fund of $3K and an ending fund balance of $791,000. I expect that that fund will start seeing some revenues in February as some of the DDA property tax capture flows in. Moving on to the Public Improvement Fund. The Public Improvement Fund received $370K in property tax revenue in January. The fund also paid out $6,000 to the Senior Center Maintenance Fund as required for the 2024 contribution.
Can you repeat that first number? I think you read it wrong.
Oh, 307,000?
Yeah, 307. I think you initially said 370. So.
Oh, excuse me, 307,000 in property tax revenue. Yes. Thank you for the correction. Net revenues and expenditures for the current year so far are $298,000, bringing an ending fund balance in Public Improvement Fund to just over $1,056,000. Moving on to the sewer fund, revenues for the sewer fund came in at $166,000. Major expenditures driving the large prior year-to-date decrease continue to be a product of the CWSRF project engineering and bond issuance efforts. I did speak with Chris Holmes of UPEA, and it looks like we're gonna be able to sign our reimbursement request for that hopefully next week, and we should see those funds come in. Much like the state funding, if received within 60 days, we can apply those to the prior year. Revenues for the month of January surpassed expenditures by $81,000. 56 of those were sewer treatment costs. And moving on to the water fund. System usage of 16.5 million gallons over the month of December was paid for in January, totaling a little over $40,000. Revenues for the fund came in just over $244,000, and metered sales made up $230,000 of the $244 in revenue. $146,000 in new meters and meter supplies were booked towards the meter replacement project for the month. Bill informs me that we should see another large bill, about $80,000 for the radios for those meters, and that should take us a lot of the way there for the year. Net revenues over expenditures for the month were 2.7K. And again, largely, that small number is a product of all of the new meters that we just purchased. Ending fund balance is at 10.4 million. Garbage and recycle fund, relatively flat activity for the month of January. We had some more timely billing for our landfill charges incurred, so no fund swing like we've been seeing in the prior months. Ending fund balance for that is 518,000. Motor pool and equipment fund, rental revenues of 91,000 were recorded in January, more than double the prior month, likely due to large snowfall totals. The final payment for the cemetery loader was made, totaling 144,000, and that purchase is the main driver in the 116,000 expenditure over revenue that we're seeing year to date. Ending fund balance is 961,000. Finally, moving to the police and fire retirement, 32,000 in property tax revenue was recorded for the police and fire retirement fund in January. Investments show a market loss of 9.7K, kind of a disappointing turn from the great unrealized gain that we had in the prior months. And pension benefits paid of 41,000 make up the bulk of the decrease for the fund balance. So we have an ending fund balance for our police and fire retirement at 4.8 million. I would like to point out we are still working to close out fiscal year 2023. So if you'll look at the structure of this report, under each fund heading, you'll see beginning fund balance 2023, net revenues versus expenditures 2023, and an ending 2023 balance. Those numbers are subject to change still, which will ultimately affect the ending fund balance. I just want to point that out, that over the next couple of months, you may see some movement there. That again, this is unaudited. Were there any questions on that report?
Okay, hearing none.
Would you mind if I took a moment to just update the council on the brass wire activity for 2023? That was something Pat had asked me to do at the last meeting.
Yes, please.
Okay. So the brass wire campground obviously was unable to open until late in the season. I think late August, if I can remember correctly. So I think a lot of people had already made their summer plans. The expenditures over revenues for the fund show $23,788 for 2023. So we had a loss of just under 24K for that campground as it was. Right now, we still owe the loan payments to the water and sewer funds for that. Obviously, we don't have the revenue to support those loan payments. So we have a couple options. As a city, we can pause those payments for another year, as we did last year, until the campground is fully operational for a full season. Or that money, to me, would be an appropriate use of public improvement funds, because the campground itself is a large capital asset that the city has constructed. So the use of public improvement funds would seem warranted to support those payments if a pause wasn't something the council wanted to consider, but the water and sewer funds seem to be doing relatively healthy right now. So I don't know that the $14,000 a year in either fund will make or break activities and plans that the council has.
So I guess I have a question here. If we take it out of the public improvement fund, are we going to end up replacing some of the money we take out of the public improvement fund to pay for all of that?
It depends. The initial project could have likely been funded out of the public improvement fund entirely. But it's really, I think it's kind of a decision that might be more your guys' direction.
We have the brass wire set up as like a separate fund,
Yeah,
like an enterprise type fund.
Yep.
So I guess it would be my pleasure to leave the two payments, water and sewer, on the books and not muddy the water with taking public improvement money. Leave the brass wire in the red right now. And as we get the season going, then we'll pay it. Instead of robbing Peter to pay Paul, why muddy the waters?
Full agreement with you.
I guess I would make that a motion if needed.
I think that's kind of already been the plan, so just sticking to the plan. And I agree that also provides us with a clear picture of how the brass wire is doing in actuality, but just wanted to present the council with just a backup plan. There had been some question of, well, what if we can't make the payments in the future? Well, that would be one viable option. I don't personally think that we'll have an issue, as all the other campgrounds in the area are booked, but that's a little beyond my expertise, campground.
How much are we total in the hole for the campground right now?
So claim on pooled cash right now, when all is said and done, is showing that the brass wire owes the pooled cash fund, meaning it's at a deficit of 85,000. So that's after construction, and that's after the 2023 season, but that's without incurring the loan payments for 2023. So add another 28 to 30K in loan payments to that.
Are we close to being able to online book and start?
We are on the book.
Yeah,
The website is up and functional. Reservations can be made for the 2024 season as of right now.
Do you know how much we in total, without, like, of city money that we spent on the campground?
What is the total cost? What have we paid in total? When this is completely, everything added up, how much did we pay to put that campground in? What is the total?
The total construction costs are 306K, I believe, is what we
The total
capitalized.
costs, everything, for
So
water, tapping, everything.
306K would be the best number that I have for you right now for that. That's what we have on the books for what was capitalized. Yep.
And is that city money, or does that include the grant dollars?
The funding for grant dollars, which is why I stumbled with that question for a minute. Sorry, I was trying to figure out what was our cost, and I can tell you the total capitalized cost on the books is 306K. I can go back and find the mix of grant funding and city money if you would like a split like that. I just don't have that information.
The grant funding was 100,000.
Okay.
And we put 30 of ours in cash on the match. And then we did 70 in-kind service to bring that match to what was applied for in the application process of 100 against 100. Then we had cost overruns because everything went wildly stupid in cost of operations, and the council chose to loan the money to ourselves rather than taking it from public improvement. And that's the difference, the 306,000, for which we have essentially atomized on our own timeline to pay ourselves back, with the understanding that we would be analyzing and watching the movements and how it did or didn't go. The intent was to open shortly after Memorial Day or around Memorial Day, and then the PFAS ruling came in and screwed up how the water testing got done, and it took a month to find out that the lab screwed up the testing, and we had to do more testing and then go through another month of process, which took us to the August timeline.
306,000.
306,000. Now, is that include the money that was borrowed from the water and the sewer fund?
It would be
Or is that
any capital cost that went into constructing the campground, not necessarily toilet paper for 2023 or maintenance or vehicle rental charges.
Right. But what I'm saying is that 306, that money is,
that's the loan to ourselves.
Okay, that's
Atomized out.
206 is the loan. 306 is the total value of the campground.
Right.
As we decided.
So we still owe the 206 on that though. So that would add to the total overall cost in the end, right? So now we're looking at 300 plus the 200?
I apologize, not necessarily, because the Brass Wire Campground is it's an enterprise fund, so it's its own business. So when it's, regardless of where the funds are coming from, it's capitalizing the asset of the campground at 306K. That's the total that was spent to construct the campground. And we're talking about loans, we're talking about funding source. So the total value of the campground was 306,000. The funding source of that 200,000 was a loan. Does that clarify things
Yeah.
further?
Would you be able to-
Total value of the campground with the grant is 406,000. 206 is what we loaned ourselves. The asset value, like a mortgage, right? You have a home value and you have a mortgage total, is
Right.
what Grant's trying to explain. The mortgage we owe is the 206,000 that we loaned ourselves,
Right.
atomized out. The home, the value of the home is somewhere between 306 and 406 as an asset, with structure and property combined to give you a total of what you would mortgage against.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to
No.
clarify the numbers the way he's saying capitalized asset, I just want to make sure that everybody's
Right.
understanding,
I
because the
guess
public
what
is
I'm
out
just
there
asking
too.
is a basic bottom line, how much did we spend to,
The construction
install
of
that.
the construction of the
Okay,
campground,
what was our-
$406,000.
okay,
100 was grant. 100 is accounted for by in-kind match of $70,000 and 30,000 cash by the city, which was committed as part of the grant application. And 206 was taken out as a loan from ourselves.
right.
For a
So you're
total.
saying we paid 400 and, that was the total cost of building, constructing,
Correct. The total cost to
Okay.
construct the campground, 406,000-ish.
300 of is capitalized, I don't.
306 of it is basically what the city was on the hook for. The other 100,000.
I think that
In-
this discussion would probably be beneficial to revisit when I can come back with some more information on funding sources. And-
Yeah, could you get us a
Okay,
breakdown of
Yeah,
that?
I'd love to get you guys a breakdown.
Thank
What I
you.
can tell you right now, looking at our books, is that the costs that we capitalized with the auditors last year for the campground, meaning what we decided was the cost basis of constructing the campground, was 306K. There are other costs associated with that might not have been capitalized, which can put us closer to the 400K. So when I'm answering, I want to be careful to say 306K is the value of the campground on our books, as was the cost basis of construction.
I was just gonna ask you to just email us the
For sure.
breakdown
yeah,
unless you
that would
want
be
to.
ideal. I'd like to see,
Full
a
breakdown.
breakdown of
Yeah, I
just the campground.
I just
not
don't
where I
have
to,
2021 and
like,
2022 in front of
dig
me at the
through
moment.
all of these finances and to pick
Yeah.
it out.
Be happy
I
to
just-
send you an email.
That would be awesome.
I would
For sure.
appreciate that.
Of course.
Thank you.
Thanks for bearing with me. I'm
Thank
sorry I
you,
didn't
Ron.
have the more relevant information on that.
No, thank
Perfect.
you.
And I'll make a motion that we accept the financial statement report as presented.
All right, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? We are finally done with that. Now, moving on to Kathy, city clerk election update, what you got for us?
Oh, I think we had a 6B. I apologize. Or not a 6B, a 7B.
That's what we're at now.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, city clerk election
no, I
update.
apologize. Something just, my bad,
Okay, all right.
in space.
Okay, I guess I just wanted to give a little information and reminders for the upcoming presidential primary election that'll be held on February 27th. This is the first election for Ishpeming where we'll have an early voting location. And our early voting location is at the Negaunee Township Hall on M35. The hours for the early voting are from 10 in the morning till 6 in the evening for all of those 9 days. The period begins February 17th, and so it'll start February 17th and end on February 25th. That'll be the early voting period.
Feb 17th to,
February 17th through February 25th. So Saturday, the 17th through Sunday, the 25th will be the 9 days of in-person voting.
perfect.
I've had a lot of calls on the early voting, so I just wanted to clarify. The early voting location is for the 9-day period. So if you're voting on election day, you go to your normal precinct. You would go to precinct 1, which is Birchview, or precinct 2, that is the Katy Hall. I just had a lot of people asking that, so I thought I'd clarify it. You should have gotten cards, I think, went out to all registered voters in Ishpeming about the early voting site, so you should have that. And then, of course, election day is still normal. The hours are still the same. It would be 7 in the morning till 8 in the evening on election day. And then, of course, there's still the absentee ballots that are, that you can apply for. If anybody wants to vote absentee, they can get a hold of me and I can give the information that they need to fill out for that. And then in addition to that, the state mandates that the clerk's office be open 8 hours the weekend before the election. So the city clerk's office in Ishpeming will be opened on Saturday, February 24th. Will be open from 8 in the morning till 4 in the afternoon. So if anybody needs to register to vote or wants to get an absent voter ballot or just has questions, they can stop in City Hall and we can take care of that. And then
That
I
was
guess
10 to what?
that was from 10 in the morning, or excuse me, February 24th, which is the Saturday. We're
Yes.
open from 8 in the morning till 4 in the afternoon. We have to be open for 8 hours during that weekend. And I just choose to be open the one day versus splitting
That's
it,
fine.
so.
Yeah.
And then I guess to end it, if anybody has any questions, I'm always available at City Hall. They can come and see me, or you can call me. If you leave a message, I always try to get back to someone by the end of that business day. If not, I get a hold of everybody, usually by the next business day, by close of business, I'll get back to people, so any questions can just be directed to me at City Hall.
Is this information going to be up on our 189 page so people can access it there also?
Information as far as-
On times of voting, early voting, when you're
Yep.
going to be open, all of that wonderful stuff.
Yep,
that
it's on the
they can
website. I
just-
just haven't got it on 189 yet. But
Okay,
yep,
that might be a
it's
good
on the
place
website.
to get it onto.
And the only two things on our ballot is your presidential primary and the,
We do have a local ballot in Ishpeming. There is
Yeah.
the school
School
has
renewal.
a renewal millage on there, so.
Is that the only other thing that's on
yeah,
there?
just two things. Okay, any other questions for Kathy? Okay. Thank you, Kathy. All right, we have no public hearings, so we are now moving on to unfinished business, additional information on the area south of Division. So what do we have here?
Donna, we also have a reservation from
Yes.
Amy Lurley to speak on this item.
Yes, we do. She asked if she could speak after
Oh,
the
after,
findings. Yes. Okay, how are we gonna go about this then? Bill? Okay.
There's a letter addressed to you guys from Chris, or actually addressed to Craig from Chris, explaining that we should do more research before we do any digging or anything like that. And I actually have the list for you of the property owners, lateral inspection with a camera, and then property owners that have extra sewer laterals. And then on the back of that page, if you guys so decide to do the lateral inspections of the 32 homes, Superior Drain Cleaning out of Marquette is willing to do the job for $6,400.
I personally
We
think that'd be a
did do
good
one
thing to do.
sewer cammering. Mrs. Sylvester's not here. The Sylvesters had another issue the other couple weeks ago. So we camera their line from the inside, and it turns out that their issue is underneath the floor of their house. Their pipe has something in it, kind of like a cement or something. The pipe is actually flat on the bottom, which is causing them to, for their sewers to back up within the house. The rest of the line going out to the main was intact. No problems with that, but their sewer backup issues are inside their house.
Okay.
And they've been notified of that. They were there when we did the televising.
And who paid for the scoping of that?
We actually have a camera, not one that we use a lot, but we have a camera and we did it. We actually saved it on an SD card if there was anybody that wanted to see it.
Okay. So is your recommendation then to go with the inspection of the sewer laterals?
That is totally up to you guys, whether you want to use city funds to pay for this. That's something that the lawyer would have to discuss with you. I'm just giving you the information. There's 32 homes in question, and to do those 32 homes, the price tag is $6,400.
Does this include the vacant lots as well?
No.
So what you asked us to bring to you for this update was the get an engineer out and start looking at the groundwater and stormwater and whether, how it's flowing, where it's flowing, and what the potential causes are. You have a letter from the engineers outlining what they have found. And then you asked us to identify what we confirm as the number of residential laterals that are connected and used from a home. And that's that top list of 32. And then identify the total number of additional laterals that are coming from what we have coined as abandoned or orphaned. And so we've identified those numbers for you. And then we were to, in this meeting, discuss how or what opportunities there are as it relates to ordinance and charter for addressing those. But I think that those are for you to deliberate and ask for your legal counsel for guidance and then let you make a decision. We were just to provide you the additional data that you asked for on the February meeting. So
I guess I would like to then make a motion to pay the $6,400 to have Superior Drain and Sewer Cleaning come and look at those laterals and take it out of what fund would be the appropriate one, Caroline or Craig?
that would be
Sewer
the sewer
fund?
That would be the sewer fund.
Okay, so to take that out of the sewer fund and just go ahead and get those inspected, seeing those are residences.
At this point, for the purpose of discussion, I will support the motion, but $6,000 isn't a lot of money to spend for what we're doing, the problems we're having. But I'm not in favor of spending it with no outcome. We get the data. First of all, we could discover a lot of things that are the homeowner's problem.
Well, I think in my opinion, I think we would have to cross that when we get to there, because I feel like the burden of proof is on us.
Can't cross the bridge when you get there because the city ordinance says that if we find a problem, you have 60 days to remedy the problem. So the bridge would be crossed the day that you find it. Just to be aware.
And the other thing, and then shut up. The other thing is, what is it going to do to help the Kopanins and all the people that are having trouble there to find problems that is gonna dump right back on them, quite likely. I think that we've identified a big problem in the improperly capped raised building lots.
Presumed. I just
We
want to
don't
keep
know
saying
that
that
they're
word,
that way.
presumed.
No.
That's
And I
why we
agree,
need to
that's my
prove,
point,
that's,
exactly.
yeah.
I think that's where we should, if we're gonna dump, if we're gonna dump some money at it, I'd like to dump money, whether it's Tunnel Vision or the company we're talking about, and get into the laterals and go into those vacant lots.
You wouldn't be able to do it with a tunnel vision. You'd actually have to dig each one of those and verify that they're
We'd have to
capped.
go from that end.
Yep, you have to go onto the property and dig and cap those lines.
Why couldn't we send a camera up there? Is there no way?
Nobody has a camera around here that does that. We could
Because it would
hire
be-
somebody from Chicago, but that's going to be a huge expense. The mobilization will be very expensive. That camera's probably in the neighborhood of about 80 grand. Craig, I mean.
Caroline, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I just, this sort of investigation, as has been stated already, could potentially find evidence that would then require these property owners to make appropriate repairs. The properties with an extra sewer lateral, I don't know that we know enough about them at this point to know whose responsibility it would be, but assuming that these are on these private properties, again, under our ordinance, like every other ordinance, I've looked at a lot of ordinances, it is the property owner's responsibility to pay for these repairs. And they are under a timeline, as Bill had mentioned. And I think when you're looking at each step, each increment in this project, you need to keep that in mind, that the city may be spending $6,400, but you could be in a situation where you're sending notices out to a lot of property owners, and potentially
I don't want to do
they could
that.
have a significant investment too. And I think it's just important that you understand how this works, so that when you proceed, you do so with knowledge.
So I'll
Yeah,
withdraw
and
my
I just-
motion for a minute, because
If I can bring up just
I
a
would like to
scenario
know
of an
where
X.
we would go next if we don't do this. I mean, we have to look at this and come up with a
If I can
solution.
bring up a scenario of X, home X, okay? So you authorize this, and I'm not against doing this. I'll do whatever you guys tell me to do. But if you want to follow, if you want to do the ordinances right, if you're going to pay for this, you're going to send me to the X house. I'm going to go in the basement. I'm possibly going to find a sump pump that's connected to the sanitary system. That homeowner now has 60 days to disconnect that from the sanitary system and dig a line to the storm sewer system to fix that problem. So then I do camera their line, and I find out that 5 feet from their house, the pipe is totally collapsed and water's just gushing in there. That's still not a city property issue, that's the homeowner issue. So now they have to dig up their sewer line and fix it,
So
according to the ordinances.
it does, though, it still begs the question that, why is this neighborhood such a problem issue? And how are we going to get to an answer without making these homeowners pay to do that? I mean, we're telling them that they have the potential to have this issue or that issue or this issue.
It's an older subdivision, so they have the clay tile piping in the system. You go up into the 8th edition, you have a mixed edition, you have Orangeburg, which we have people up there replacing their lines because Orangeburg collapsed. You have some clay tile up there, and you have some cement pipe. Cement pipe deteriorates because of the acid in the sewer. So it's just that you have a group of houses in this one area. It's not that it's isolated to this part of town. This is happening all over. There's clay tile pipe all over the city that is cracking and caving in.
Well, I understand this, and
that's why the
but we're
city
going
pays
back
to do sewer mains.
Several of these homeowners complaining that they are getting stuff into their basements, so.
Okay, but like I just said,
I just would like to know how
the
we-
Sylvesters were saying that it was a city issue, and we cambered it and found out that it's their issue. Granted, it's not outside the house, but it's inside the house. So if they want to stop the sewer issues, they're now going to have to jackhammer their floor and replace that pipe because it's their issue.
So I think the question I have is, so if we were to go ahead with this and say, okay, we're going to allocate $6,400, we're going to look at these, I think you said 32 homes. So one question I have is, what is the process? Do we go to them, we discuss the potential scenarios that come of this, and then they either agree or don't agree to have this happen, knowing that it may incur additional costs that then also start a clock ticking on time frame to have that done. I'm thinking if this was my house and my neighbors were having issues, or even if I was having an issue and someone came to my house, or I received a letter that said the city is prepared to send a camera up your line and discover where these problems are coming from, however you may incur additional costs, substantial additional costs as a result of this. I don't know that I would want to participate. And I might decide that I'm okay with dealing with whatever it is that is happening. Also, if I'm truly invested in wanting to know and to solve this problem on my own property, I might, if 6,400 divided by 32 is about $200 a piece, I could decide that I really actually am committed to finding out what this problem is, and if it's on my property, I want to fix it, and I will take the initiative to jump onto this opportunity to pay $200 and have my line scoped. As we discussed at the previous meeting, that's a substantial discount from what it would cost if I hired a private company to come do it for myself, or to have it investigated. So I don't know that that's an exorbitant cost to find out that maybe it is the city's issue, which I think we've fairly eliminated that it may not be in a lot of these cases. And it's also not a substantial amount to then find out that I'm going to be paying a real substantial amount to fix the problem. I don't know, I guess in there is the question of what sort of disclosure would we plan to go to the homeowners? Also, I don't like the precedent that this would set then, that any other neighborhood that's having issues, we would pay to investigate all of this on our own dollar, when it is highly likely that it's a personal property, private property issue.
And what, I guess my question then is, what if this is not a personal property issue, and this is in some fact something that is more on the lines of our systems backing up?
Well, the
So I would
important
think-
part of what Lindsay's suggesting is that if I own house X and I pay, and I don't know that we get it for 200 if we're not doing them all, but we could discount their price. So I'm gonna say I pay $300 to have this company come in and video my sewer. That's my business right now. No clock starts ticking. Nothing happens if he says, well, you got this problem. Or the guy says, well, you have a sump pump that's running into the sanitary sewer. That, he doesn't really have to care. He can take his 300 and walk out. If he says, the problem I found is out past the lateral, and that's a city issue, then you come back to the city. But we haven't triggered a private citizen into spending what might be thousands or more dollars, because no clock starts, no ordinance violation exists. It's a private.
You summed it up perfectly.
Yeah, and I would like to just clarify though, because Lindsay asked the question. If the city goes in and does this, it's not a disclosure of things, it's our right to inspect under ordinance. We're gonna make an announcement with what the ordinance says, and we're going in with the right to inspect. It's because we believe that there could be an introduction into the city main that is a problem. And so we would be taking those actions that we're obligated to do under our ordinance by doing the opposite, which is what Mr. Scanlon is saying, is maybe we can find a way to find a company that's willing to offer private residences a discounted rate, not the city a discounted rate, but the private residents a discounted rate. So pretend it's a driveway getting paved. If I pave my driveway and you're next door to me and you want to get your driveway paved, the best time to do it is when the asphalt company's there and making bulk quantities and giving the better deal. If everybody in the neighborhood gets a driveway, it's a better rate for everybody, right? We're saying the same thing in an opposite fashion. So we're projecting that if 32 homeowners wanted to say, hey, could you help put us in contact with a company and see if they're willing to work with 32 homeowners in a private fashion, we can project how much it might cost for each homeowner. But if the city goes in, it's the right to inspect, and as soon as we find, you have 60 days to fix it. Whereas if I find it on my own and I don't have to report everything, like the contractor might still have license things that they have to talk about, whether or not they report or don't report, but they do have to notify the homeowner, hey, I found a septic or a sump pump that's pumping into the sewer. They have to notify the homeowner. No homeowner will be notified of that in their private matter. But, Caroline has to verify what I say it to be true, but I believe that that's the accurate assumption. We're either going to implore our right to inspect or try to help residents figure it out on their own without triggering that timeline.
Can I add to that if we were to, what I would be okay with the city potentially incurring costs for that would be if we were to do to help homeowners in finding a contractor that would do this, bulk neighbor's driveway, blah, blah, blah. And then they found that, okay, so I paid this rate and they looked at my line and it turns out that it is actually on the city's side. Then I don't know that it would be unreasonable at that point that we might reimburse them for that
I can tell you right now, it's not on the city side. It's
Okay.
a
I'm just-
brand,
I'm just
I know,
saying
I just want everybody to be
hypothetical.
the pipe system in that neighborhood is PVC, and there was found to be no defects in the pipe. So the only
City-owned
place, the only place that it can happen is from the Fernco at the property line to the homeowner. So the city line is intact with no problems.
So I want to back up to what Councilmember Bean was just saying, because I think she did make a good point on this, though, of that question. What if they do pay for the money to inspect it, and there is nothing wrong with theirs? Do we then, I think we then should reimburse them.
No, they're doing it on their own.
They're doing it for the purpose of verifying whether or not they have a homeowner problem on their property with their ownership of their privately owned lateral line. And it only costs them at that point in the neighborhood of $200 to find out that, nope, I don't have a problem. The more likelihood is that most will find that there's a problem that needs to be fixed, and they can then determine what to do with it. I've had experience where a privately owned lateral could have tree roots growing in, and it might be as simple as cutting tree roots and learning to treat water to kill those tree roots. That might be one of the problems that could exist, and maybe it's not significant and it's not a replacement. Maybe they can say, hey, I can budget for that, and I can plan to then put a liner in. Maybe the city can help me find a company that can show me a new technique, or maybe the company that comes out can help me identify my options and I can budget for it. But for that $200, they found out. Sometimes your car has a check engine light and you don't know what that is, but you don't have the way to read the code. You have to go to the shop and drop it off and have that check engine light checked. And it might cost you time and labor to have that inspected, and then find out, you know what, it was just a random thing, we can't pinpoint it, and you go home and the next thing, it's not a problem anymore. I mean, this is essentially what we're talking about.
Right,
is
I
that
understand that,
condition.
but we're still talking about a whole neighborhood here that has this problem. I mean, this is basically every parcel over there that has this problem. We haven't heard of that in any other neighborhood in the city where every single one is having these.
I haven't had complaints from all of the people on this list.
I do have to bring you one more.
I can say that maybe 5 people have registered complaints.
Ken
5.
Boehner just asked me to
Your
register
Honor, is that, and I'm not backing down on my word to the Kalpanens or any of the other people over there. I still fully support them that we find out what's wrong. But we have a case of which came first, the chicken or the egg. And I still believe firmly that there's a groundwater problem.
I do
I'm not
too,
doubting that, but
absolutely, yes.
We can't attack that problem. We have to start somewhere. And I think that the homeowner discounted private way is an excellent start. I also think we need to keep weighing the storm sewer water in that neighborhood. We don't have it. That's probably the oldest neighborhood in town. If not the oldest, one of the oldest. And we've got, Todd has mentioned over the old railroad grade. That's gotta be retaining water.
And I've been up there many times with him and looking at that.
There's a lot of things we can do, but I think that this option, as it's stated right now, is very much worth looking at.
Everything I think is worth looking at, but I also think we do need to hear from some of the homeowners and the property owners there too, to give them a chance to give us their opinions too.
What opinion?
Well, I mean, you know.
We have, I don't want to keep picking on Todd, but a guy that lives over there and has worked on his home and everything, I don't think he's gonna say, yeah, you guys come in and what happens, happens.
Right, no, I get that too.
So I don't think anybody's gonna come with that over. I don't think that we can say, well, we'll go dig up the 5 or 8 vacant lots until we find a sewer line, because that's just shooting in the dark. So if we're gonna do prudent expenditures, we should be starting with the discounted homeowner at their behest, not saying we're coming, you gotta do it. Make it available to everybody who wants to do it, set it up. The best time of the year is coming. We're not gonna have the runoff, of course, The one time in my
Still
life, we like
possible.
to see a little runoff to do some diagnosis.
Still
It's
possible.
happening.
Yeah.
Can I?
Yeah,
make a
absolutely,
comment here?
Ren, yeah.
Okay, I'm seeing on this report, this is my, all of this sewer and everything important. Bottom line here is where this all started was right here. They recommend observing spring runoff to better understand the path of the runoff that it's taking. Okay, this is what started
It is, yeah.
this whole,
With
his
Todd's
property being
yes.
flooded, the runoff is not being diverted properly to get to the stormwater.
Exactly.
Okay, this seems to be, we're into all of these sewer issues, and we've totally missed the basic complaint here that is in the beginning
Yeah.
of when we get that massive rush of stormwater. It's running, there's no longer a curb in that area. It was removed, and that curb was the primary thing that,
It never
But
happened.
where does that water go right now?
Does not go into the storm system, it goes
No,
right into
it's
Todd's
running
yard. and-
over, and their property is obviously
I totally understand, but
lower.
there is no storm sewer. So no matter how we deboard it.
There's a
there's
storm sewer there,
There's storm
yes,
sewer
there
there,
is.
and the water is going into it. But naturally, it goes into people's yard. If you have a low-lying yard, you're gonna get a lot of water.
But we have storm
Yes.
lines running through here.
There's
But the
storm
water-
areas.
Right, but if there was
Not diverted
if there was a
Correct.
curbing
One of the
along
remedies
there-
to somebody having, and I don't want to pick on Todd because I don't want it to sound like him, but if you have a low-lying yard, one of the biggest remedies is to fill the low-lying yard. You're not going to get water pooling in your yard.
Or the city.
What is
does
happening
to
in
make
Todd's
sure it gets
instance,
directed.
I believe, is there's a vacant line right next to him. And if you watch the sewer camera, there's a lot of dirt coming in that line. I think the dirt that's causing the sinkhole in his yard is going into the sewer. The same thing is right next to the church. They have a low-lying divot. A house was taken down there, and water is actually going, water and dirt are mixing and going into the sewer right there, causing that big divot. So they have, if you go after a rainstorm right next to the church, there's a lake. You go back there the next morning, it's gone. That went into the sanitary
It's
system.
my understanding, though, that this started at a certain period, okay? This wasn't an issue before, what, a year ago?
Well, I mean, it was an issue, but this is when it was brought to our attention.
Right, this is the initial, I mean, we're talking storm sewers and everything else, and I mean, there's got to be a way to divert, put some kind of a diversion to make sure this water is directed to the storm sewer.
And we've been.
In large, I
hang
mean,
on,
we're
right.
not going to be able to.
Hang on. She's speaking right now in the no.
Is what I'm saying. I mean, from what I saw last year, is this water is just literally flowing over the culvert, over the road, and then right directly
going-
into,
exactly.
and the reason that one homeowner has the problem more than the others, it's running through everybody's yard there. It's just, they don't have basements. We're talking about the water's gonna go to the lowest point, okay? So this is stormwater running into his basement, and then these people are put in the position of, they have to pump this stormwater out of their basement, okay? And then they're gonna pump it into wherever there's availability.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you're
gonna
talking
piggyback
people,
off
in
of
order to get
hers.
rid of this water, are pumping it into the sanitary sewer because they would rather have it be there than in their basement. But then now you have the problem of they're trying to eliminate the water out of their basement. They're pumping it into the sanitary sewer.
Right.
So the neighbor who has the bad sanitary pipes that are crushed or whatever, they're getting a deluge and a backwash of sewer and stormwater.
And so I want to piggyback off of what you're saying, because I want to get back to exactly what you're talking about right here, and that is where this all started. Many times I was over there, and I know Renell was over there, and we could see where that water that was draining was. And the only reason it actually found its way to the drain was because he had put a ton of sandbags out. When those sandbags were not out, water just went straight down. It went bypassed those sewers and right into his yard.
Right, the
So-
homeowner was creating a diversion
Yeah.
for that water to go past his property and directly
And
into the
it would
storm
be
drain.
appropriate to put a curb there, so it actually goes to the drains where we want it to go.
I have
It
to
is all I'm
apologize.
saying.
I thought that last manhole in the alley, I thought that was all sanitary sewer.
Each one of the alleys has a sanitary and a storm.
Right.
In the case of, I can't remember his name, Manti,
Mhm.
he has a Michigan basement. Water is going through the rocks, flooding his basement. He is then pumping it with a big sump pump into the sanitary system, even though now he's gonna be moving it 2 feet to the storm sewer. Something he's gonna do on his own, which is what a homeowner is supposed to do, is pump it into the correct system. But he's still gonna have that water entering his basement. Michigan basements aren't made to hold water.
True.
Water flows in.
The old ones are, yeah.
So
And
I think
one,
I think I look at with different eyes right now. I've got to go back over there. And because I apologize, I truly thought that it was all sanitary.
No.
and one other thing that we need to point out too, and this could be a bigger problem too, but water is also coming up from the ground over by that embankment down from Todd's house. And it actually, and I have video on my phone somewhere, but it's actually seeping up. And we just had that sinkhole over there too. So I don't know if that could be connected, but maybe the actual thing is for the city to take a look directly at the problem that started this whole thing, which was Todd bringing it to my attention and then to the city's attention.
Well, and I think to your point, if there is water coming from the ground, I'm not opposed to this letter, to this recommendation from UPEA. We asked several months ago at a meeting to have an engineer have a look at it. None of us are engineers, so
Agreed.
the engineer's recommendation is to observe it to best understand what's happening. They can look at water coming up potentially from the ground, and then make a recommendation on what to do. I know that is not the speediest solution, but it's probably in the long term, the best solution.
It may be.
That being said, what we've been talking about is the sanitary sewer and the motion that's currently on the.
No, I pulled it.
Oh, you read, okay.
I did.
So, I mean, I understand that the two issues may be related, but they are, until maybe we've determined that they are actually related, they're also still isolated issues. We have the sanitary sewer with water coming up and backing up into people's basements and toilets, and then we have the water runoff issue. I think that the solution for the water runoff issue is to let the engineers handle it from here.
Yeah.
And I think that a potential solution for the individuals with the sanitary sewer in their basement. So if I'm a homeowner who has been here to a council meeting or has filed an insurance claim and not had that approved, and I've got sewage coming back up into my basement, I'm concerned about that, and I would like to not have sewage coming into my basement. So if there is an option to explore the issues on my own property at a discounted rate, I have to weigh then, do I want to pay to have something discovered that may be very costly, or am I okay with sewage continuing to come into my basement? And I will need to make a decision about that. And it depends on my bank account and how much I hate sewage in my basement, I think. And that's a decision that the homeowner will have to make.
So I also want to point out one other caveat here. On that vacant lot that Todd owns, he bought that from the city of Ishpeming. So that also should be taken a little differently too, as he bought it from the city.
Can I have?
You may ask.
So first I want to address, this all started at the time where we had a disaster declaration in the first week of May. There was no more spring runoff after that. It was
Hang on.
32 inches of snow.
I thought it started before that May runoff.
No,
Correct me if
no,
I'm
all
wrong,
of-
Todd,
no,
wasn't I over there in
all of-
April?
All of the.
I was over there in April.
Okay, so if I may, the claims that we had all stemmed from the storm runoff, and when we were moving sewer from the sewage under a permit into the CARP as a discharge because of the impacts to the sanitary wastewater treatment center. Then the discussion of a deck came as one of the complaints that was discussed and looked at. And while they're distinctly separate, one of the questions is it sewage in my house or is it dirty groundwater in my house?
Okay.
And so when Bill's suggesting that there's a orphaned or abandoned line that may be holding a gap, a break of some sort, and the water comes washing across the yard, hits that point, goes down in and carries dirt in, and some of that may or may not be connected back to the house. It could be dirty water and not sewage coming in. So part of our investigation is to try to figure out first, do we have a sewer line problem? We've scoped and we've determined it's not the city's sewer line that has a problem. We identified these potential of orphaned and abandoned lines that are on vacant lots. And then we have identified which homes have a lateral and where. To the point of whether it was city purchased or not, I don't know what happened in 1982 and I don't know what the condition of it. I do know that from our telescoping that the line was not capped at the main. It was brought up in a public comment that they were capped, that someone shoved rags and poured concrete and those were capped. Well, if they were capped in a wrong location or somewhere short of the main and then wore out, those pipes could still then break and contribute to this problem. But where it should have been capped was at the main. Our investigation, our video that we presented to you in December shows that that is not the case on any of these lines. So I can't speak to what happened with how it was capped, how a property was sold. I can speak to what we've televised under this investigation. What you've asked us to do is identify where there's potential problems. We see dirt, we see debris coming in from those lines from the private property. We see some questionable dirt or debris coming in from some laterals. And so this is why you're getting both. You've specifically said you want the engineering firm to go out and look at the condition of the runoff. We haven't had new runoff. When we got this direction was after May. Whether it was brought to us or not, the direction to go and start looking at all this stuff was after the runoff season. So I'm not trying to make an argument about whether or not I've got a date right or a date wrong. There was no runoff following this. This is the first spring that we should have that runoff to investigate. The engineers are ready to do so for this. However, look at the weather outside.
Well,
Look at the amount of snow.
But
I don't know whether we're gonna get. We could get a big rain. Yes.
when did we start pumping stuff into the CARP?
May
Okay,
2nd.
this predates May because my first text message from
Not just this year.
Todd,
Not just this year. We
I understand that, but that's what we started that spring. So my first text message from Todd was on Monday, April 17th at 8:01 a.m. So this predates that storm. You can clearly see on these photos he sent me what he had to do to get the water to run into the sewer system, which is sand and sandbags. He has a video that he also sent me and what he had to do down the alley to keep it from going into his yard, which was also create a line of dirt to make sure it isn't going into his yard.
And the address to that was we installed a new catch basin. As part of that conversation, we would go and put a new catch basin in. It took longer than anybody wanted it to take, but the catch basin was installed and that we were gonna observe that runoff some from that too. So that was part of that address when that was brought up. But the majority of the complaints, when you gave us direction to start getting in
Well,
beyond the
Mike
catch
tried
basin.
to get investigations
Well,
going
but
earlier
we
than that.
We
though.
did take action. We're not trying to, if you're trying to lay blame.
We're
go ahead,
not trying to lay blame.
If you're
I'm
trying to
not.
understand the
I'm not
problem, the
trying to
problem
lay
is
blame.
that
I'm
we've
trying to
laid
give
out
you the
two
evidence I have.
solutions to a problem set. We just need to figure out what the next direction is.
Yeah, so again, I think we're still talking about two issues, two separate issues that we have not yet determined are in fact related. To both of your points, the runoff at the one home is a separate issue. The sanitary sewer, I believe, was a result of that particular precipitation event on the 1st and 2nd of May. So I think we need to keep them separate, and I think we need to investigate them separately until there's reason to assume that they are in fact contributing to each other.
Well, we do have to remember though, that this did
about-
predate that May.
How about we do it this way, okay? You have 32 homes right here. Are you gonna pay for these or not? That's plain and simple. Do you guys want to make a motion for the city to pay for these or not? The $6,400?
It's been rescinded.
Let's,
That's
okay.
That's
so-
been rescinded
okay.
because
So
then
then the next question. would be-
But hang on, Bill, you're asking some questions that are kind of a little forceful in where you're going with this, and we're trying to discuss this.
I would like to move that we authorize the city manager to direct staff to offer each of these people, not necessarily the ones that are highlighted, but these people are all in that neighborhood, the active ones, to have their sewer scoped at a reduced rate that we can determine. We can tell them we can't guarantee 60, we might only have 20, but give us a price, $250, $300. Contact them and allow them on their own to have it done. Make the offer, at least then we're moving forward. And in the same time, and that, like I said, I want to make that a motion, but at the same time, we can look at and I apologize, we can look at the storm sewer issue, because I truly thought it was all going sanitary sewer. So I think that in an effort to get things rolling, we offer, as I stated in my motion, offer to have these done at the best rate we can get from the company in question.
What kind of a time frame are we gonna put on this? Because you know that
I think we
company's
should
not
start it
gonna-
immediately. Start the offer immediately. Whether it
Carolyn
be a
obviously
mail
wants
or-
to chime in here.
Question, is the motion that this will be a city project where the city is doing the signing up of the homeowners and the investigating? Or is the city just letting the homeowners know that this company and possibly others may be able to do this for them, and they can organize it through the company, so the city's not involved?
The city makes the notification, tells them it's gonna cost you X number of dollars, here's the company you need to contact. The report is given to the homeowner, the city has nothing to do with it.
Except we're promising them a price.
Yeah, I don't think we should promise.
I don't
them a
think we
price.
can,
Well, I said a reduced price.
Well, I think we could suggest that the homeowners could do a neighborhood, see if the company would offer a discount for multiple homes. I don't think that we want to be involved in the price. I think we want to make a recommendation that this is a.
I think also you might be sole sourcing where there's competitive market. And so you would be recommending a single source and they have choices. We can give them the companies that are available to do this and that we know would be able to do it. Talk to the companies and try to encourage some sort of rate and a
understand what you're
timeline.
saying, but I don't think we should go to the open market for this. We want to give them the best price
I agree
possible.
with Pat
Well,
on
we're
this.
not
yes.
giving them a price, though. The companies would be
We're
giving.
facilitating a decent
I
price.
agree, and I think that's what we need to try and do.
We're doing it as a
Yes.
cooperative type thing.
But
Not saying they have to.
Yeah, I think that we.
I can tell you that if a group of people called this company right now, they will do it for $200 a home, if that helps you. So if a group of people want to get together for $200 a piece, they will do the home.
Okay.
I just think that
I mean,
we
I've
should
supported
not be
it by
involved.
talking.
I think we should not be involved in the offering of deal. I think we
What-
can offer information, but as soon as
I was
we-
gonna say, would it be acceptable to say this is one of the companies that has showed interest in doing the work?
I think that would-
Can we, though, also have in this that the city staff can kind of reach out to that company and let them know and say, you know, it would be nice that,
Not as part of the motion, but something happens, it happens.
I mean, to just tell them that we want
think it's
this at a
already happened.
price.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I just think that we need to be clear that the city's not technically involved.
Absolutely,
Because
absolutely.
then it's our project and not theirs, and then.
But I think we're obligated to make notice to these people.
Sure.
That it's available. If they decide, well, I don't like this guy, he's an old brother-in-law or something, I don't want him, I'll pay this guy. That's great, it's still your information, it's not city information, it doesn't trigger any laws.
Exactly, yes, yeah.
Does the motion sound clear?
May I try to sum it up and see if this is the clear motion? The city will issue a letter to the 32 homes listed on this sheet as the homes that we've identified as having laterals to the city sewer in that neighborhood, and suggest to them that there is a firm and provide contact information, and that firm is willing to assist them in investigation of their private lateral line. There are others. We may even provide a couple of those that we know that are in Ishpeming or nearby, that it's at least, giving them choices to make. And we have already reached out to the company. We can, again, tell them that this is what we're doing as an approach and let them know that they should expect neighborhood to call. We can probably even give them a non-privacy issue, because this is not private information, it's public record, a address, and let them reach one another through that letter, which does not obligate us to anything other than say, here's a company,
Right.
here's the homes that we're trying to help to the company, here's the business that might be able to help you to the homeowners. Give them multiple options to choose. They can choose for themselves what's best course of action. Did I sum that up
Yes,
correct?
exactly.
And then does
So-
Caroline agree that that's legally safe?
Well, I'm concerned about funneling business to one company. We have a city policy of actually preferring local companies. We also are aware there may be competitors available. And so we would be in the business of making a recommendation that people use this company. That's how it would be taken. I would be careful about that. I would guess that based on tonight's discussion, there may be some calls to Public Works or to City Hall tomorrow inquiring as to who this company is. So I don't think you have to, we can give out that information, but there may definitely be other competitors out there. And I don't think that we should be pushing one company.
Could it potentially be included in the letter to say, for more information, you can contact?
Yeah, these companies, but I don't think we want, for more information, I don't think we want them contacting the city. If they're
No,
looking
because
for
we'd
like
be
a,
doing the same thing.
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I think we just provide them with the information. There have been people in attendance here who would probably be happy to convey that information, or they can watch YouTube and glean it for themselves. But then
Possibly just a generic statement that there are companies in the area willing to do this at a discounted rate. Period.
And it's been stated that this one would be willing to work with them, but it's entirely possible that there are others that would be also.
Match the
And
price,
it's
sure.
possible that they might even do it cheaper, who knows? So,
Okay, there's a motion and support.
So the motion has no company recommendation.
I will support that, and then I will ask also, should we
There it is.
consider putting, oh, you support it?
Yeah.
Okay, well then I'm gonna ask, should we consider putting a timeline on this to have it completed within the next 6 months, to have it completed within the next year, or do we not care about a timeline?
I don't think we want to care about a timeline, because if they don't want to do it, they don't have to do it.
I mean, they're all gonna get, if they get together to do it themselves, I guess it doesn't necessarily matter.
Okay, motion and support, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? But I now would like to get back to one thing, and I would like to make a motion to direct city staff to work with the engineering firm to come up with a proper curb system, so the water will drain into those catch basins properly.
Well, to follow the suggestion that is on the sheet, we're going to observe and find out why that water is not directed towards the drain. I mean, and why is it just, I mean, there's got to be a way to direct that water away
Yeah, I mean, I think that,
to the storm drains.
I mean, I think that the UPEA's recommendation to watch what happens, I would want to, they're the engineers, they want to look at it and see what happens. We asked for an engineer to weigh in on this. This is their weighing in on it. As I said before, it's not the most speedy solution, but if we're thinking long-term, it's probably the correct
You
solution.
have to remember, it's only the beginning of February.
Yeah, and there may be other things that are determined, you know, I mean, it may be, I'm just, you know, making wild assumptions, but maybe, you know, a guy goes up there and watches it and then climbs up on the hill of the railroad tracks, railroad grade, and said, oh, I think it's this thing over here, and you move, you know, a mound of dirt and suddenly it goes somewhere else. I mean, I don't know. But I would want someone who knows what they're looking at to be the one doing that. And
I agree with that.
And I did put-
And I think that
work with the
we
engineering
need
firm
to,
do that.
this was the initial complaint, and it just kind of
Yes.
got glossed
It
over.
did, and that's why I'm
And,
trying to make this motion. so we can get somewhere.
That's where I think,
But you directed us in that December
Right.
meeting, they're here, they're on board, and they said that they will continue.
Yeah, I don't know.
Once the information is gathered, we will review the information. So they're planning to gather that information and continue the effort. We are already doing what you're suggesting we be directed to do.
So
I was
okay,
gonna say, I don't think that we need, I think we just need to do what they're suggesting,
Right,
which doesn't require
right.
any action by us.
so I do have one other question though for this whole topic though. Could the dirt be backing up into those laterals by plugged and clogged sewer mains? Because you may be seeing more dirt come out of the vacant ones because there's no clean water running through them too. So if if that sewer is backing up, it could back right up into those sewer systems.
The sewer wasn't a sand trap. The sewer was overwhelmed with increased volume due to a storm surge, for which we drew a permit and the state observed that additional groundwater all the way through the entire system. It was not just the city of Ishpeming, but the city of Negaunee was also doing the same thing at their end of the
I
line.
understand.
And so I think the answer to your question is absolutely, there's dirt and debris getting into the sanitary sewer from those additional lateral lines. That's what we showed you in the video.
Well, and I'm just asking, if the dirt and stuff could back right up into those lateral lines and create that illusion that dirt's coming back down from those.
Where'd the dirt come from?
Well, we've got backing up on these,
Where'd the dirt come from? Not, if it was sewage in those pipes, then we could say it's
but we
the
talked
sewer line
about-
backing.
Right.
We have literally dirt. If you go, like I showed in the video, if you go before the manhole, the pipe is crystal white.
Yeah.
Right,
because-
right at the end of the alley is where it starts being completely mud. And then it clears up
I'm
at
just
Division.
asking because
So
there's no water coming out of.
somewhere between Johnson and Division, there's mud entering our sanitary system. There's a possibility that you have 19 lines on vacant lots that are adding dirt to that system.
Did we
Just
not
asking.
say or discuss capping the abandoned lines from the discharge end?
We did discuss, and you said that you wanted to know exactly how many there were. Bring us that number and let us make a decision on how we want to approach it.
But
So
it is possible to cap them from inside.
we have a process by which they would be capped, and we provided you with some general numbers at the last meeting in December as to what that would look like. The question was, how many are we talking about? Can you get us that number by February? That's what we've done. So if we take that number of 19 and marry it with the December report, we could say that we know exactly how many we're trying to resolve. The question is it ours to resolve? And should the city spend taxpayer dollars to fix a private resident ownership of a problem, which is what Caroline is bringing up.
It is possible.
It is possible to plug those lines at the main.
Well, and that might be a possible solution that we could just do and cap them all off.
I think that it would be prudent to ask UPEA for a, I don't want to say a report, but a monthly update as we go through what we call spring, like at our March meeting, April meeting.
And
They could give us an update of what they're seeing over there.
And the reason I did make that motion is because I do not want that Todd to be forgotten about in this instance, because he's the one who brought this to us, and he's incurred a lot of problems
I
since
don't
then
think
too.
anybody's gonna be forgotten about, at least not by me. I just don't want to try and throw bad money after good money and try and do stuff that isn't gonna fix the problem.
Well, I guess with a curb system, I don't think we would be spending money, good money after bad, because it's worked in other areas.
I think to answer Mr. Scanlon's question though, I think the answer is I can invite UPEA to the March meeting and ask them to address. They will be observing between now and then.
Yeah,
If there's runoff, right? We've had a weird winter where runoff might be not possible, or it could be a big rainstorm that comes and we do have runoff. I don't know. But you can ask the bit curb question and how to direct water as part of that engineer assessment, and get the engineer to answer that question.
Then can we have
get
them?
that monthly update in that monthly report of March.
But have they assessed the fact that there's no curb there? Could we?
They have
because
assessed that there's no curb there.
it would be great to just have that opinion at the next meeting and not say, you gotta go out and look for it.
They have assessed that and they have offered their opinion.
Could we blow up a map of that neighborhood with the sewers on it? That would be great for each council person.
It
to
would,
have.
absolutely, yeah. I'll withdraw my
Provide
motion,
you
but I
provide
want-
you a map via email? Is that what you're asking? Like just
Any
blow up a?
fashion.
Okay, no, I'm just trying to make sure, like, you're not trying to get it on the screen right this second. You're trying to get us to generate a map
Yep,
and
in the
provide
future.
it.
It shows, I'm still blown away that we have storm sewer over there.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that would be, that sounds acceptable
Mm-hmm.
to have UPEA come to the March meeting and potentially answer some questions and discuss what they may or may not have observed so far.
I think we're moving forward in a good manner. We're getting some things done and we're not getting rid of money like it's going out of style. And when if the time comes, then we can start spending money.
Mhm. And yeah, I guess because this is on one last thing, is there a way to help Mr. Kaupinen with his issue now with the city or the county to resolve this? Because all he did was put his deck back together as it was, and it was reported to the county. Is there any possible way that the city could work with the county to help resolve this so he isn't stuck with fines?
I don't know what the county has issued to the resident. I just know that the county looked at whether or not there was a construction with a permit.
And it wouldn't have, they wouldn't even have known if you didn't point them in that direction, so.
Well, so part of our role in the city is to look and
No,
see.
I
beg to
these
differ on that
things.
because we were asked to investigate it.
Bill,
I'm-
yes.
We are off of the item topic, I believe.
I think he's still talking about the water and its effect on the one resident's deck as it is associated to then being investigated as a water problem and reported as a construction without a permit, and whether or not those things are related. The answer is that we do go around the neighborhoods on a regular basis and look and see, and when there's something that is recognized. There are many other people that report people in this county for working without a permit. We have landlords that compete with one another and report on each other, and we have neighbors that come in and report.
And that's
I've had two
perfectly
neighbors come
fine.
in, and I've had two neighbors come in and ask for consideration just this week. And so we do look at all of those things. I am not a codes person when it comes to building codes. I call our contracted service for that, and I say, this is something we would ask if it is or is not permitted and appropriate, and then they do what they do. We don't get notice of what was transacted, only that I did, in fact, attach my name to that request to have that looked at, because we're in a neighborhood with multiple problems, and the way we should be addressing the entirety of the problem is we should look at it. If we have a problem that is owned by the city, we would have to address it. Right now, we don't. We have somebody that is then constructing without a permit, not ours to look at. We report it. I have several homes that we've reported this week that are the same. We're not treating anybody different. It's not tied to the term retaliation that was brought up earlier. It is about doing our job the way we're intended to do our job as city staff.
Well,
Your Honor, if
I don't think
if
that
I
was a
might,
good
with all due
situation.
respect to Mr. Kalpinen, the more we talk about it, the worse it's gonna get. If we just leave it be, it's on television, it's on YouTube, we don't need to beat that horse. And it's not a repairable deck. There's not a structure that can be built there. It's to me a non-issue. But us talking about it every month is not gonna help Mr. Kalpinen at all.
Okay.
I think you still have a motion and support on the table.
Okay, there's motion and support. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, I don't remember what the motion was.
To
To direct the
Initiate
staff to work with UPEA, which everybody kind of talked, but may not be necessary.
Well, as long as, like I said, as long as they're going to look at curb and have some information for us at the next meeting, I'll withdraw that motion.
Do we need a motion to get them here to discuss this? No? Okay. Jason, could you go ahead and just read this recommendation paragraph? Can we do that? Just so you know that we are addressing again, I'm going back to the original issue of the runoff, okay? And this is what we are doing to address that, okay? The UREA has examined the area and offers the following. Recommend observing spring runoff to better understand the path of the runoff is taking. It is our understanding that structural damage has been limited to one residence. Based on the proximity of the residents in this area, it is puzzling how water would be limited to just one runoff, which we kind of brought that up. Other people don't have basements, so we have one basement that it's running into. So what they're doing is we're sending someone out there. We're in the current process of sending someone out there to actually observe this runoff, to see where it's going and if there is a way for us to better direct that into the storm drains. And we will have them come and explain what may or may not be done to help you out with that runoff. The sewer, that's going to be an ongoing, but for this runoff issue, we are addressing it. I just want you homeowners to understand that it is a work in progress and we're not letting it go. Right now, we just have to wait and see what spring is going to bring, where the issues are going to be again. and address them as they come up. And that's
Okay.
all I have to say.
And if the council's done, I'll let those who wanted to reserve time to speak. Amy?
1 second, Amy, just need to turn the camera again.
Hi, I'm Amy Lurley.
1 second.
Okay.
Oh, you're good.
725 North First Street. I own a commercial property at 404 South Third Street, and this is my neighbor. We bought the property 5 years ago, and I can tell you that every single year we have between 8 to 10 inches of crystal clear, beautiful spring water in the basement. And we pump that water down the drain routinely. We have someone living on site, and that's what she does. She keeps an eye on the water. It's crystal clear. We have no other issues, no issues with sewage, no odors, no backing up, none of that. But in my mind, this has always been two very separate issues. So I congratulate you on coming to that conclusion. It's really runoff groundwater that I suspect is pushing the debris through abandoned lines because there is no other source of water to those lines. The runoff and groundwater that is wreaking havoc on that neighborhood. On South 3rd and South 4th in the 400 blocks, both of those streets have significant undermining. The streets are dropping down, not just a couple of inches, like 6 to 8 inches. At one point, portions of the roads were coned off, now they're not. It's kind of dangerous to drive over. I encourage you to walk down there and take a look, but you can clearly see that water, something, is undermining those 2 blocks and maybe the surrounding area. As a property owner, I would happily pay, if I felt there was a problem with my asset, I would happily pay to have it examined, explored, and I would pay for repairs. So if you do send that letter out, I will take you up on it. Thank you.
Thank you. And did anybody else reserve time? Okay.
Set your cameras back.
Yep. Okay, we are now moving on to new business, special event application, so 10A. Mr. Corcoran reserved time to speak to which one of them?
He's on B.
You're on B, or on 2, okay, perfect. All righty, we'll start with 2024 4th of July festivities and the parade permit.
Is Andrea
Andrea's
on?
on,
1 second,
yeah.
let me just get to.
Does council have any questions for Andrea?
Hi.
Andrea?
Hi, Andrea, do you have a camera? I gotta just.
I didn't have it on right away. Now I don't know how to turn it on.
It's okay. You're fine. We can hear
Okay.
you. I know your voice.
Wait, did that work? Oh, no, that's my house.
No.
Anyway,
You're
I don't
okay.
know.
Okay.
You think
No,
I would
you're
know
all
this
right.
stuff by now, but
Can you just, I guess since we can't see you, just state who you are and who you're representing?
sure. My name is Andrea Jackson. I am the president of the Ishpeming Independence Celebration Day Committee. So we're requesting to have the annual celebration on Saturday, July 6th. Last few years, we've switched to having the festivities on the first Saturday in July. So that year it will be the 6th. We're asking for, I think we have the parade application and the special events. So we'll have the parade down 3rd Street, Hematite, and Main to Division. And then we are planning on having our picnic up at El Qualagan with fireworks.
Perfect.
Your Honor, I move that we support the Independence Day Committee's request.
Support. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Event is a go on our side. Moving on
Great.
now to.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andrea. Moving on now to the Hiawatha Land District Camporee Boy Scouts of America, Mr. Corkin.
All right, thank you. So we're requesting to use a few sites over at Basswire Campground, May 17th, 18th, and 19th weekend. So this would be the first weekend that the campground is officially open to the public. This is for our scout camporee, so there's scouts from all over the UP that come to this. It's for boys and girls in middle school and high school. And this year they're doing orienteering and search and rescue themed camporee. So they want to use some of the surrounding trails and that area in Old Town, Nagani, I think, as well, as a part of their camporee. One thing that we did this at Van Riper State Park for many years, and they allowed the scouts to use it for free on the condition that they clean up the sites beforehand. And being that we're one of the first ones in the campgrounds, it saves some time for the ranger staff. So we want to continue to do that and do that at Basswire and clean up all the sticks and leaves and debris from the winter in those sites. That's the scout motto, is leave it better than you found it. So we're requesting to be able to utilize that campground. And I just want to see if there's any other questions or anything about.
How many sites are you wanting to use?
Craig, do you remember, was it like 15?
It was a 1/2 of 2 loops. So one loop of 2 loops.
Oh.
And so basically half the sites, 25 or less, when they finally get the total numbers on the
Your
ground.
Honor, I will move that we allow the scouts to use it at no cost. And it's bittersweet that the first weekend we're open, we're doing it for free partially, but
Oh, I
I
don't.
can't think
I
of a
think
better
it's
way to break in our campground than to.
fully
have the
support.
scouts there, so I move.
Fully
And we
support
would
it.
love for you to do the cleaning.
All right, yeah, sounds good. I
Let's
appreciate
include
it.
that.
So
Yeah.
so I mean, I guess that's part of the motion. I'd like to see if you could add or just make it clear is that one of the things Councilmember Halverson even said, let's find some folks that can come out and help us to further the program, help us with some of the cleanup and help the park relieve some of that stress. So here we are, we have that initiative. And so what we're doing is we're not offering it as free, we're offering it for in-kind payment.
Services in kind.
And so it's not a free, it is an in-kind service, it's relieving pressure on the DPW staff. And that's something that they want to do as part of their giving of their program. And it was part of the direction of the council for us to seek some of these opportunities.
Absolutely.
Motion is amended for services in kind.
And still support.
And I just have a question. Do we need to, is there an issue with the union for work being performed? Does that need to be worked out with them, or how does that?
No, we're clear on that. And as well, what wasn't mentioned is we've worked out some assistance for them on getting some porta potties out there, because to make sure that they have plenty of restrooms, because what we have is we have restrooms built on a generalized capacity, and by them moving in and taking probably more than what would normally be within that capacity, it could have put extra strain or on other campers' availability to use the restroom. So they will have porta potties out there, and we found them a way to get a discounted rate towards that effort and minimize so that it doesn't cause further impact on other campers in the area. So
Maybe
And
over that-
also, usually when my kids were growing up and we went out to the campground, parked our camper to participate. And so again, I really feel like this is a great way for you to help us promote getting people into that campground.
Oh yeah, hopefully all the scouts seeing that, hopefully they'll come back with their families this summer and fall and
Absolutely.
utilize it.
And maybe some council members can stop by and thank them in
Yeah.
person. So
For sure.
I'll definitely stop by
Thank
and
you,
thank
Taylor.
those kids.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion on the floor. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Hiawatha Land District Camporee is accepted. Now, we are moving on to B, ordinance 11-700, consideration of sworn statement. Mr. Tonkin, at this point, you have 2 minutes and 32 seconds left. If you would like to continue that.
Mike Tonkin, 612 North Third Street. I was emailed this letter and was requested to read it at the meeting. It's from Mr. Jeff DeGabriel. He is apparently at work right now, delivering the US mail, and he's not able to be at the meeting tonight. So he knew I was going to be here, so he asked me, would you please read my letter for me? And of course I said, yes, I would. And I'd do that for anybody, as they know. So here it goes. This is his words. I'm
Go
just
ahead.
just a messenger, okay? All right, dear Ishpeming council members, January 10th, 2024 public comment session for me was interrupted by City of Ishpeming manager, Mr. Cicchini, and he didn't ask for my permission to communicate to me or belittling me publicly. This is not tolerant. Insubordination rightfully because Fourth Amendment rights violation of my personal privacy. He does this with everyone in public and privately. He done this twice to me personally. He must be removed immediately. Effective, a public apology isn't enough. He has threatened this mayor in text messages. I know about the text messages, none of our business how I know about them. This grounds for FOIA requesting those text messages. He has interference specifically with my 11700 on this vote with text messages to city council members. He has disclosed my privacy in those court rulings documents without any court ruling permission or mine whatsoever. I will not waive those rights ever to him or anyone else on this council. You need my personal permission to communicate that. I will not give it to you. So, those court documents cannot be used with his hearing whatsoever without a permission to do so. He has also violated New York Times v. Sullivan Supreme Court case law of communication to me whatsoever without any authority from me. Your legal attorney at this council members meeting should communicate that to you. You have court documents to provide you to prove that all communication about this case isn't allowed without any authority from court directly of Judge Kangas' permission whatsoever. In the court transcript
Please wrap it up.
from his oral communication directive, for your attorney to not communicate this to you doesn't make my personal problem.
Mike.
I've got about 2 sentences to go.
You can finish. I got one to let you.
Yes, I can finish, thank you. Problem that between you and your attorney communication of client-attorney privilege, so that's your responsibility to get that information on your own. I will not tolerate this any further. Your inaction will prompt an action from me, and it will not be here publicly. Thank you, Jeffrey DeGabriel, 413 Vine Street.
All right, I'm
Thank
going
you
to
very much.
address a little bit of this right off the top. Number one, Mr. DeGabriel finished his public comment, to my belief, and that is when the city manager requested my permission to speak, which I granted. And there are other council members up here who did hear him do that. I also went and got 2 opinions on that because I came to City Hall, asked City Clerk Kathy Smith to provide me with the documentation from the judge on the final ruling. And I did send that out for a couple opinions, and that because nothing in that final statement from the judge on the ruling said that, Mr. Cagini could not, or any one of us could not speak on any of that. It was not written by the judge, therefore, Mr. Cagini was permitted to speak on that. There were no gag orders or privacy caveats in that statement. As for threatening texts, I don't believe anything has been threatening, nor would either one of us be threatening each other. So I guess on my side of that, I would say I don't have threatening text messages from the city manager, so I would like that FOIA to be officially denied. And as for other violations in here, I can't speak to those. Maybe the city attorney does, but it would be under my recommendation that a motion to dismiss would be made.
John, I would make a motion that we dismiss the violation of set of hours. I would
No, one second, Caroline does want to say
Hey,
something.
okay. The ordinance requires findings by the council prior to dismissal, so I wonder if the motion includes that the charges are frivolous, unwarranted, without merit, or unfounded in support of the dismissal.
Okay, so I would make a motion that we dismiss based on
Frivolous, unwarranted, without merit, or unfounded. I have a copy.
yes,
Okay.
yes, yes, and there was, yes, all of that. Do you need any more detail than that?
I don't think so.
Did you find any evidence of?
Yeah, there's no evidence of any misconduct of office by the manager or the mayor.
Yeah.
And as stated, the, rulings of court cases that's public information. There's nothing that bars any of that.
Please refrain from talking, please.
There's nothing that bars us from discussing that, so.
Yeah.
It is, in my opinion, frivolous.
I would agree that it is frivolous. I have went through this many times again. I did seek legal opinions, and based on the one thing that I could, which was the ruling from Judge Kangas.
Yeah.
And I, yes, I spoke up, so I'm in support. Is there anything that any member of council would like to say or add to anything?
I completely agree.
Okay, I will call the question. All those in favor of dismissing the misconduct in office charge, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ordinance number 11-700 misconduct in office statement is dismissed. Moving on. Resolution 2-2024, adopt poverty exemption income guidelines and asset tests. And I know Councilmember Halverson and I have a big question on this. What is this for?
Yeah, my question is, what do we need this for? Why are we having this?
This is a state requirement, but I'll let Kath.
Go ahead, Kathy.
For March Board of Review, this needs to be adopted for the March Board of Review, which is March 13th, I think, is when
Yes.
the hearings start. So it's done annually, and we update the poverty income guidelines through the.
So we're just updating
We're
the
just
numbers?
updating, yeah.
Perfect.
Okay.
And it falls under this Public Act for Taxes. And it also, it helps us with other things as we get through because they recognize us as.
We're good. You answered my
Perfect.
question. Thank you.
Good.
This one
Mo-
is.
Then I will make
Okay, do you have a motion then?
motion that we adopt resolution number 2-2024 to adopt poverty exemption income guidelines and asset tests.
Support. It is going to be roll call, but just to get it out there, the Board of Review meets on the 13th and 14th, I think. And I was asked this question, so I figured it would be a good, it's either the 12th and 13th or 13th and 14th, and maybe City Hall can post that on social media for clarification.
We will post it, yes. And channel 189.
Excellent. We will post that, so please look out for that if you are looking for Board of Review hearing times. All those in favor of passing Resolution 2-2024 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Kathy, roll call, please.
Councilmember Bain,
Yes.
Councilmember Halverson,
Yes.
Councilmember Scanlon,
Yes.
Mayor Chapman.
Yes. Okay.
And dates for Board of Review for 2024. The organizational meeting is March 5th at 2:00 at City Hall. And the hearings are Tuesday, March 12th from 3 in the afternoon till 9 p.m. and Wednesday, March 13th from 9 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon.
Okay, so the organizational meeting is on
March 5th.
March 5th at 2:00. And the hearing days are on the 12th and 13th. And for times, once again, you can look on the city Facebook page.
9 to 3.
9 to 3. on Wednesday and 3 to 9 on Tuesday. Perfect. All right, the resolution is adopted. I'll find what I did with mine. There we go. All righty, moving on to proclamation of Spread Goodness Day. This came at a request from the founder of Spread Goodness Day, and I will read the proclamation. Proclamation request to designate March 8th as Spread Goodness Day in the city of Ishpeming. Whereas the idea of Spread Goodness Day was first created in 2017 to inspire a global day of simple goodness by encouraging individuals, schools, and organizations to show the explosive power that one act of goodness multiplied by hundreds, thousands, and maybe millions has the chance to change the world every single day. Whereas in 2017, the launch was created as a Global Goodness Day initiative headquartered in Marquette County, Michigan. And whereas people from across the nation rose up to create an impactful Spread Goodness Day events and initiatives. A day that individuals, businesses, schools committed to doing good things, celebrating goodness explosively together, and a day that provides or proves that one action can change the world. And whereas the public schools from elementary to universities participate in unique Spread Goodness Day events throughout their communities to create an explosive atmosphere of empowerment worldwide that is the simplest acts of goodness to change the world every day, and to spread goodness, plain and simple, and to engage schools and student organizations worldwide, and to support grassroots nonprofits that help people survive with goodness through sponsoring their fundraising events. And whereas Marquette resident Anna Dravlin, founder of the nonprofit event, after experiencing the positive effects of engagement with her community, volunteerism, and social action, and whereas communities across the state have kept the initiative alive through the contagion of goodness sparked here in Michigan and spread throughout the world, and where I, Anna Dravlin, formally request the proclamation to be adopted, and whereas on the 8th of March, 2024, we should honor the power of and simplicity of goodness to change the world, positively impact our community. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Jason Chapman, do hereby proclaim March 8th, 2024 as Spread Goodness Day in Ishpeming, Michigan, to uplift our city, inspire, and unite the world with acts of goodness. Can I get a motion to adopt?
Support.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? In the city of Ishpeming, it has been therefore adopted that March 8th, 2024 is Spread Goodness Day. Moving on, renewal proposal from HydroCorp Cross Connection Control Program. Who wants to take this?
This is also one of our annual contract renewals. The attorney has reviewed the contract for completeness, accuracy. We have, if something were to go wrong, the option to notify them and terminate, and there is no one else that does this work. So we recommend that we, again, renew this contract. It is a requirement of operating a water system.
Okay, so moved, Your Honor.
Second.
All right, any further discussion?
Do we need to do any pending legal review or?
No, I've reviewed it.
Okay.
Perfect. All righty. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Renewal proposal to HydroCorp is adopted. Moving on, F, proposed policy 306, utility policy for multi-unit residential and commercial apartments.
Mr. Mayor?
You may.
We would ask that the council just table this until next time. We want to do some revisions and bring it back.
Okay, so moved. All those in favor of tabling F, proposed policy 306? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. G, authorize city manager to travel to Lansing for the Marquette County Ambassadors Spring Trip, April 15th through the 18th, and I will happily make that motion.
Support.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to 10H, the manager's review. I have asked Councilmember Bean to once again oversee his review slash, is that what it is, a review or?
Annual review.
Annual review, performance review, and she will have that out to council. And she said she will have this all ready for us at the next council meeting. Is that okay with council?
It will be, let's do the chronological. By next council meeting, we will have gotten the review and filled it out
Yes,
and returned it
yes.
prior to the council meeting.
Mhm.
What's the drop dead date? Back to you.
Let me look at the calendar.
Yeah, and give yourself enough time to
We've,
do that too.
I mean, the way I sent it out last time, it didn't really require a lot of like tallying. It spits out the form I use spits out a very nice PDF that's easily printed and mailed as it comes. So, so our next meeting is on March 6th. So I think it would be reasonable to have those back by Friday the 1st. I mean, that gives plenty of time, or it gives lots of time.
Friday, March 1st is good with me.
Unless there's any, Craig, unless you would prefer to have them back sooner than that?
I don't know. You guys get processed. Give me a little time before the meeting, like a day or two.
Yeah,
I
perfect.
need a lot of time to know.
Just one thing on that, Jason, back in May, the last one, there were some changes that were to be made to the evaluation. So it was, you just pass this to Lindsay.
Absolutely, yeah, yep.
Thank you.
And then just make sure Diz is aware, sometimes mail gets lost in the email systems, so just want to make sure that when she's back, she's aware. So, all right, I appreciate you taking that on, Lindsay. Thank you. Okay, we are now moving on to the final public comment, where you have 3 minutes per person. And is there anybody that would like to speak? Okay, Claudia, let us get ready here, please.
Claudia Demers, Day 21 Maurice. I just have a couple of questions. At our last Parks and Rec meeting, I think it was the last one, it might have been one before that, but the brass wire wells need to be tested quarterly. What is the cost of that testing? And how many campsites do we need to book in order to pay for that testing? If anybody has an answer for that, I'd like it, please.
Okay. All right, is there anybody else in the room that would like to speak to public comment? Yes, you may go ahead.
Kathy Schooler, 769 Michigan Street, Ishpeming. When you were talking about the sewer lateral lines and stuff, if there is a problem on the person's property, the homeowner, from the time you find it, they have 60 days to fix it, okay? In order to fix that, they're gonna have to get zoning permits, building permits of some kind, and probably health department code permits. Are you taking that into consideration? Because sometimes those could take a while. Thank you.
Okay, don't believe those are required for fixing that. I had a few folks shake their heads, so. Is there anybody else that would like to speak during public comment? Anybody in Zoom world? 0 attendees. Okay, last call in the room, public comment. Closing public comment, moving on to mayor and council reports. I will start on the opposite side this time and go with Councilmember Bean.
So where did we go? We have not had a Parks and Rec meeting since our last council meeting, so I have nothing to update there. We did have a planning commission meeting on Monday. And probably our largest items of discussion were short-term rental ordinance, which has not had any new work done to it. However, one of our newer planning commission members has taken an interest to that and did quite a bit of investigating, particularly around the idea of density guidelines. And so, but it also sounds like that may be, like some real data on that may come from some of the work being done by LSCP as part of the RRC requirements. So without great numbers on what exists within the city, we are hesitant to put any density limitations in there. However, that being said, Al has acknowledged that there are a lot of things on his plate, and that he hasn't updated it since we looked at a draft several months ago. The other thing that he has spent some time on that I think is potentially very impactful, he did have a meeting with Bryce Sturmer, the owner of Mellow. As we talked at the January meeting, the Planning Commission had discussed looking into those additional cannabis licenses, and I think I updated you at the last meeting that we had talked about that. So he talked with Bryce Sturmer, and the Planning Commission is going to hold a public hearing, I think at our next meeting in March, regarding the addition of licenses for processing, which would be limited to 2 businesses and limited to the industrial district. And then secure transport, of which we would also consider limiting to 2 businesses within the city, which could be in general commercial, central business district, or industrial. And also testing facilities, which could be limited to 2 also, which could be in the general commercial, central business district, and industrial. So those were discussed several months ago as potential additional licenses that we could offer within the city that fill a need within the region, because especially in the case of secure transport, there are no businesses in the Upper Peninsula that offer that. And so the businesses in the Upper Peninsula hire the next closest business that does that, which operates out of Gaylord. So we would be potentially filling a niche for those, and I believe that there is some desire to have those types of businesses. So we would, one, potentially be opening up the opportunity for viable businesses to come into the community, and then they would also have to pay those license fees. I don't believe that it contributes towards the tax payment. But they would generally not, they don't have customers coming in, there's no traffic. We specifically requested that Al take the consumption license off of his list, and that we could consider that again later down the road, but these 3 seemed fairly, for lack of a better term, they're a little more benign. So I think that consumption is a stickier subject, so. So we will be, I don't know what the time frame is specifically on working on that, but we will have a public hearing on it at the next meeting.
May I ask you one or two quick questions? Sure. Is there going to be is there going to be any opportunity, I lost my train of thought here. Is there going to be any more discussions on a social district? I've been getting a few questions on that, that people would like to see kind of a social district like they did in Nagani for Ishpeming. And Craig, you can jump in too.
I would say that those are in the planning commission and DDA before they would be brought to us. And
Which is why I was
haven't
asking
heard,
Lindsay.
But it is something that would be kind of looked at as we get RRC certified and MEDC funds come as to what they could do and how they can bring it.
Okay.
But there's not any activity in those programs, I don't think.
We've never discussed the social district in the planning commission that I can recall.
Okay. Just leave it at that, and then, because those other things will be coming to councils, so.
That's all I have for my report.
Perfect, okay. Renell?
Went to the housing meeting, and it was absolutely the fastest meeting I've ever been at the Housing Commission. They just had standard business. They did bring up that they have 3 apartments available. And so actually, that's the first time that we went up and looked at them, that I saw what the apartments looked at. So we got a little mini tour of that. But absolutely standard business, nothing going on with them at all. They're renovating some of the apartments, just doing the basics to get them ready to be rented again. And in the downtown, the DDA meeting and everything, they did have an election of officers, and everybody just stayed the same. There was a couple people that said they weren't going to do it again, but it's no changes. And let's see, the beautification committee is still working on, I guess they have 2 employees that have put in applications for NMU, for watering, beautification. She's in the process of ordering all of the flowers for spring and everything, so.
She does such a wonderful job with those.
Right,
baskets.
like I said, pretty basic with that also. And they also awarded 2 startup assistance grants, one to elevate athletic training, which she's going to be in the 906
Yes, upstairs.
area over there, which we thought was really a great place to be. Yeah, well, excuse me, I call it 906 because that's
CrossFit,
where
906,
my kids
yeah.
go to work out, but. And then the bike pantry, which they're going to be in the Gossard building. So both very good, both were here to talk about it. And they received a very nice thank you note from Hematykes on they're the new childcare and education center. And that was pretty much it. We did do a little discussion about the DDA getting a little more involved. I'm really gung-ho on this channel 189 and using it for the DDA, for the city, for everything we can to promote what we're doing here, what's going on. I still like the idea of being able to click on that channel and get a quick rundown of what's going on. It just makes it easier. So we're going to try to work towards, promoting that a little more for the DDA and the city and make really good use out of it, because it's really a good looking channel. And also, unrelated to this, is where the Quick Trip is going in. They demolished the building.
Yes.
And are working on that. So that was very encouraging.
A lot of work they're gonna be doing to
I
that
went
site.
there, I drove by a week earlier and the building was there. I went back and it was just gone. So they're moving forward on that. So that's like super good news. I like things that add to our tax base as opposed to take away from it.
Yeah, they're gonna be doing that right, that's for sure.
Okay, that's it for me.
Okay. Pat?
Excuse me, illness kept me away from the Senior Commission on Aging meeting, and the cemetery was off their alternating months. One quick question that Craig might be doing in his report is, where are we at with the tennis courts and the DNR grant with the school?
I actually met with Carrie this afternoon for about 2 hours. UPEA is helping to kind of do the government estimate of what it will cost. I will have a proposal for how to fit it into the budget for the March meeting.
Oh, good.
Carrie and I have both kind of outlined what that looks like, but I literally pulled down all the screens that we have to populate in the grant process. It's completely streamlined from the last time.
Oh, good.
And I gave Carrie several things that she can do to start working on that, and things that I'll be doing. Grant and I have already talked about some of the financial pieces that have to be accounted for in that, but we're on target as of today. We have until April 1st. We have some things to collect and get together, but I think we have a reasonable path forward. I think we have a reasonably achievable budget. And I think there's probably some other opportunities that we're still exploring.
Good, very good. Thank you.
I'm sorry, the intent is to go for the 8-court, we're gonna kind of call it a tennis court multiplex, and tie it to the state requirement for an official certification, which allows them to host tournaments. But also,
Very nice.
also recognizing that both the boys and girls high school teams had state champions this year, and they were not able to play a single match on our own home tennis courts. So that's also telling when we write a justification statement.
May I ask a quick question? Because it's relevant to that. That'll make Ray Olds very happy. But one of the things that was brought up at my coffee hour was, could those also have the lines on them for pickleball? And it's become such a popular thing, and people are wanting to find places to play it.
I will ask. I don't know when you're trying to design to a state certification for high school tennis matches, and making sure that we meet those conditions. But I do believe that they're already hosting pickleball opportunity over at the Birchview School tennis courts.
Okay.
So I think
Township does as well.
I think there is in our town available pickleball. I just don't think it's those, and I'm not sure that with what we are planning, whether or not that would or would not be considered, at least to get them built first,
Right.
and then think about how we modify it.
Okay.
The other thing I had, Your Honor, was with the recent person walking into Marquette City Hall with a gun.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's prudent for us to have the city manager and our police chief review possible security measures. I know we put in buttons a term ago, so we've got a direct line on all the desks, and our officers have responded quickly when needed. But, we open the door for the elevator access. Maybe we need to move that door, because that opens the entire back of City Hall, things like that. So I guess I would ask, and I don't think it needs to be a motion, but for the manager and the police chief to review that for the next meeting, or what's convenient, and let council review that.
I think that would be good, because also one time Councilmember Bean and I were discussing even the safety and up here too, and stranger things have happened, and
Well, and there's things like, you don't want people up here carrying a backpack in, or, things like that, or boxes, or and I'm sure they'll consider that when they look at it. That is all.
Perfect. Okay. I got a few things. First of all, I'd like to congratulate the Ishpeming Ski Club, on having a good tournament. I know that it was a little snowy, and then the second night was during the Packer game, but I did participate in the TV6 Morning Today Show with Nate Heffron from Nagani, and I'm happily pleased that I coined the term the greatest show on snow, and TV6 has now taken off with that to describe the ski jumping in Ishpeming. Did a great job. Thank you to all those volunteers out there who made that happen. And we have one jumper in the Ishpeming Ski Club that is quite a talent. Isaac Larson, Lowell Larson Jr.'s son, had the longest jump in Westby of 105 meters. he has, I guess, almost overjumped suicide a few times. So great to see the program is paying dividends now with our own jumpers. My next coffee hour is February 13th at 6:00 p.m. at the Cliff Shaft Mining Museum. I'm thankful that they're going to host this month, the evening one. And I do believe Councilmember Furby is planning to attend. If she says no, I will notify council so one of you other ones can join us. I also want to bring up the Central Dispatch Policy Board met and in January. And one of the things, Jason, are you able to talk and at all?
Yes.
Okay, one of the questions, and I'm going to direct this to both Chief and you. In 2025, it's very possible that all of the old radios will become obsolete. So that might be something if we still have some of those.
There were no salads.
Any of those old ones, they're kind of asking for the county to do an inventory to see what we can do. You have, good. Excellent.
Yeah,
and
we
Jason-
just got our FEMA grant for 24 radios, so we're good too.
We are the first community then, I think, to be all set. So great job, you two. And then, yeah, I brought up the tennis courts and pickleball was brought up. And, citizens would like to just know any possible new info on projects that are happening in the city, if we can do a good job, a little better job utilizing 189 maybe. And the last thing I wanted to bring up was our fire tower. That wrap was supposed to only last 1 year. I believe it was put up when Mr. Tonkin was still mayor. So is there anything that we can start looking at, just to make sure that it's still structurally safe and that netting is still safe? I don't want that to possibly come crashing down or anything on our people, but that was a 1 year thing and it's been around year 5.
And we did an evaluation. We have that report that I provided last year, and it was not at risk of collapse, but the best recommendation that we've received from an engineer is that that should come down as part of the, not rebuilt. So the question is, when, how, and is there opposition to that? I mean, there's been conversation as to whether or not that is historical or not. It is not historical designated. It is maybe potentially contributing in a way, but it is not something that the engineers would recommend rebuilding. The cost is cost prohibitive more than anything else. It's about $700,000 last estimate I saw to take it down and rebuild it to a standard. So
There's two, and I think this is something that we have to take up as a council. There's two sides to that story. One is it's a tool. It's for hanging hose to dry. The other side is the aesthetics. And as a fireman almost 30 years and loving that building, I would like to see the possibility of the historical register. And because there's drawbacks to doing such a thing as well, but to see it repaired, if possible, as a historical. It'll never be a hose tower again. We can't do that. But it would be nice to know if we're able to before we tear it down.
I'd like to see that too, and if it can be a hose tower, that'd be great.
It would make a beautiful police department if we build a new fire station.
And I do have, we've entered some talks right now. I'll update on that another time. I'll talk to Craig about it first, but yeah, and then I think that's all I had, but yeah, we should really look at the fire tower. Did you want to say something, Chief?
I would just, You gotta be on the mic.
Oh, yeah, Mike, please.
I guess I just want to, since you guys brought it up, put it on record that we do still find stuff in the parking lot every morning. Practically every morning I come in. And I guess my recommendation, I know people want as a historic building, but my office is literally right below that. So I would prefer, if you want that, you move us. Because I don't want to be sitting in my office and come crashing down because we've had other buildings. So if that's what you want, then I would prefer not to be under it.
I hear what you're saying, but I have to preface that. We paid an engineering firm to tell us there's no imminent danger. If they said there's a chance of Ottawa getting crushed by the tower, I would immediately.
That was a year ago. I think we should have someone look at it
We can
again.
reassess and we can make a recommendation. I do want to
Jason.
recall that, I do want to refresh that we did do a plan to Lansing that included a complex look at the public works, the police and the fire and how that would shape. And we have had legislative discussions about potential appropriations being assigned in 2025 is the last discussion that I've had with the legislators. And so we're looking at some things. There's definitely conversations with legislators. Appropriations are appropriations are appropriations. We don't control any of it, but they know the noise. And so it's getting looked at from the side of reconstruction, rebuild, complex. But I think right now the imminent danger should be looked at, but the idea is to bring it down. Maybe a new complex has something that is similar in nature or demonstrates some respect to that, but not necessarily the
I've
same.
already resigned to the fact that we're probably gonna lose it. But it would be nice to have the peace of mind to know that there was nothing.
Well, I'm also contacting Senator Peters' office this week. I've got a couple different reasons why. So, Ren, sorry, I know I saw your hand.
Yeah, I know. You always do that to me. When we met at the fire department with
Senator McBroom.
McBroom and everything, we kind of had a conversation about this. And I understand, I mean, I've lived in Ishpeming for 40 years, but I think sometimes we have to surpass the sentimental for what we really need. I mean, our fire department is one of the best. I mean, and I can attest to that. My house burned down.
Sure.
They were there. But a new building is one of the things that was brought up. A brand new spanking state-of-the-art building is probably going to be about 8 million, okay, to build. If we try to restore and do the historical and all of that, you're looking at 10 million to bring a building back that's going to be substandard, but it's going to look great.
I'm not saying the fire hall will stay there.
Right.
That ship has sailed.
Okay.
The floors won't support it, but it would make a great police station.
Right.
But at any rate, I understand the tower problem.
But cost effective maybe to just demo that whole and put it right on the same spot is what was
I don't agree with.
talked about, but.
I think the building has a lot.
But anyways, that's just
That's
something to keep in mind. We don't want to forego having a high-quality, state-of-the-art facility that's going to protect our city
So
as opposed
I'll get
to
into
historical.
kind of what I've already been talking to.
I'm sorry. If we may, we're on, report.
Yeah, I know.
Manager
Sorry.
report. Can we just, I mean, I'm happy to discuss this, but if we're following our agenda and our rules of order, we're on, it's like 5 minutes for.
We're doing a little water.
Okay.
I guess I'll just give one quick update. I am talking to Senator Peters' office again this week to discuss it. The idea was to really bring in the fire chief, the police chief, and hopefully have like an entryway that would be a big nod to the history of both departments and would be able to showcase some stuff. So that is kind of the talk, but I have to update Craig later this week on that one, but I also will have an update for him after talking again with Senator McBroom. So I'm done. That's it. Oh, one other thing. People want to see our lines painted, the road lines and parking lines. That's it. That's all I got.
All right, move that we adjourn.
You haven't had your manager report.
Oh, I'm
or your
sorry.
Yeah, we
report.
still gotta go to Craig here.
That's why I was trying to keep us on track. 'cause,
I
like,
made the
we still got
motion.
stuff- We still got stuff to
You
do.
did. There is a motion on the
I
floor.
rescind.
So I would like to point out that Karen Casper and some others in the community are asking if the council would like to maybe establish some way in which we could assign, maybe, I don't know what the word is, but we have during this July week, the start of our homes tours, the cemetery tours, the Festival of Treasures, the multiple events around the Independence Day Parade. The folks that ran the horse wagon rides would like to pair something in and call it our History Week. You have Pioneer Days over in Nagani, you have other places that they've
Agreed.
called it something. Ours, we already have the events, they're already lined up. We just don't have a conventional name that,
And it's
like,
part of marketing.
branding. But I'll leave that at the moment, let you digest it, because I'm gonna talk about something else that's coming that might relate in some way. So we have drafted with our LSCP and our Siren contractors a first draft of our request for proposals that we're getting ready to put on the street, which is the last step of RRC certification, the technical assistance grant for marketing and branding, which has a lot of different ways it can spider out. We're looking at the master plan and the rec plan and all these things and trying to figure out what the planning commission and DDA have recommended to figure out what that is, get a company in to help us do that. It's about a 6-month process to get to that end state. That would lead to potentially a new website for the city, some new coloration, some new, just brandings and how we do things. And it's been of interest to both the DDA and the planning commission. And in a housing strategy, what are we offering to a developer when we say we want to do housing? What's the tie-in? What's the brand? So that's coming. That is, depending on where it shapes out, is somewhere between a $30,000 and $40,000 grant to the city. No match. Well, no, there is a match, but it's minimal, and we think that we've already approved it in the previous meeting, but it's less than 20%. I can't remember what the number is. But that's going to rebrand us, which then will tie us to the opportunity within the rebranding to look at assigning our History Week. But if we want to, it might be something that we could do as part of our communication strategy to engage the residents in kind of creating what that naming might be, or kind of do some sort of spirited idea. So I'm wondering if you want to think about putting it to the planning commission and the DDA to kind of figure out what they would think would be the strategy for creating that name, and how do we shape the Ishpeming History Week. But it feels like we've got all the events, so it's not creating a new week of events, it's just creating a name to our week, as recommended by Karen, the Historical Society, and the Heritage Hills, and some others that are actively trying to showcase and whatnot. So think about that. Let me know how you think we want to do. I think it's probably the Planning Commission, maybe it's Parks and Rec Commission as well, like just kind of how we brand it. Certainly input from the Historical Society, but I think you pin the rose on somebody, and probably would most appropriately fit the DDA, because they also have the competing Iron Town over in Nagani that would be like our DDA. So if you agree with that, I could just pin it. If you want to talk about it, I'm happy to have that come up in March and decide. But we got a little time to still kind of figure out something.
In March, I'd like that.
So another grant that has found its way across my desk, QPAD asked if I would partner with them. They saw this MISHDA Housing Readiness Initiative. They were kind of trying to figure out this grander scheme, trying to pair us with MSU Extension and QPAD to develop something. They put their feelers out, played around, and came back and said, Craig, what I had was not going to work, but let's try this. And I threw some ideas at the wall. So what we've come up with is this council, as part of a multi-jurisdictional Marquette County Intergovernmental Housing Task Force, paid for a TMA, target market analysis. That is coming to conclusion. That was funded by a state grant through the county. We participated in some of that match, and that TMA is going to offer a lot of information as to what the housing market across the county can sustain, but targeting interest points for each of the communities that also contributed to that. So we're going to have that. So we're going to take that TMA and then use a Mishta Housing Readiness Initiative to pair that to doing what Lindsay was alluding to, getting the market inventory for Ishpeming, going out and see how many rentals do we have, how many short-term rentals do we have, how many duplexes, how many quadplexes, like doing the inventory, putting it in a database, matching it to the TMA data, and then handing it off to a planning firm that's going to then take those initiatives that best fit Ishpeming and realign it to our zoning, our master plan, and other plans, all funded by Mishta, $50,000, and all executed by QPAD or others with no city match. And Mishta application went in, and they called us back and said, hey, can you just clarify 1, 2, 3 things? We did that. They were very excited. They felt like we're the only community so far to wrap our hands around it the way that we did. They still have somewhere around $3 million in the $5 million that was available. And within the next 3 to 4 weeks, we should be getting that grant and handing that off to QPAD so that it will just realign all of this. It matches to our branding effort, it matches to our housing effort, it matches to taking the data and not letting it sit on the shelf. And it's free to the city, $50,000. So they haven't awarded, so I'm not going to say it's money in the bank, but it looks like it's money in the bank because the legislator took all restrictions off and made it really easy to get. We actually went for 20 grand. They told us to up it to 50. They want us to go all in. So we're in. We think we got it locked in for that. We are still awaiting the results of the community grant. It was initially supposed to be announced in October, then November, then December. And then just last week, they finally said they're going to announce it in February. They didn't even address January. So we don't know where that's at, but we're still in the fight. It's not been announced. As for construction updates, the MDOT folks are already gearing up their construction schedule and getting that is building this week and next to get ready to publish when they're going to start the roundabout construction. That will be back to bridge, but you will start seeing ground pavement torn up and some real traffic impacts starting when they do that in the spring. Likely to go all the way to winter, and we might, because they got the bridge work in last fall, be able to save not going into the next spring, but to be seen. Our CWSRF is still moving forward. Things are getting lined up. The contractors ordered the materials and getting all things ready to go. So we're ready to start, and we'll work on that. Siren and I and staff are trying to get, like, how are we going to shape a map? How are we going to present that? Where's it going to go? How's it going to be? What's the updates? But our contractor will be responsible for, providing those updates and getting it out and having regular interaction. So there's a lot going on with grants. And then as we talked about the school, with the tennis courts is our number one target. Police chief has worked really hard to try to get 2 new officers ready to go to the academy and using, planning for that grant dollars. We had physicals done on 2, and in the process of the physical, the last step is the component of the mental portion. And it's not just head and state, but it's, physical and mental stamina. And that had a failure, so we're back to looking for one pass. So we got 1 in the system, ready to go to school, working on a second. They have other candidates that are looking favorable that would have to still get through that. The school starts somewhere around May.
Good work. And the fire department
Jason had one depart. He's got authorization to hire, but we're still sitting in that 29 to 30 number, which is still stronger than we've been in a lot of years. So Jason's maintaining a pretty healthy fire department and continues to seek additional granting that way. Yeah, I think that's it.
Okay.
Now, I will move that we adjourn.
Then I will
Forgot
support
your
that.
attorney report.
Oh, do you have anything, Caroline?
None, thank you.
Okay, now, all right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're